Look at somebody next to you and ask them this question. When are you going to finally change? Not tomorrow, not next year, not when the money comes, not when people apologize. I'm talking about today, because you can shout, pray, and wish all you want, but nothing changes until you do. You've survived the pain, outlasted the storm, and lived through the betrayal, yet you're still holding on to habits that are killing your future. So I didn't come to comfort you today. I came to confront what's been holding you hostage. Some of you are asking God to change the season, but God is waiting on you to change your mindset. You keep blaming the past, the people, the pressure, but the truth is the door has been open and you've been afraid to walk through it. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need another motivational quote. You need a decision, because the same you that walked into this room cannot walk out the same way, or you will keep cycling through the same pain, the same frustration, and the same broken promises to yourself. So I ask you again, when are you going to finally change? Change does not begin with motivation, applause, or even prayer. Change begins the moment you stop protecting the lie you've been living in and start telling yourself the truth you've been avoiding. Because as long as you keep editing the story to make yourself comfortable, you will never step into the future God prepared for you. You can shout in church, lift your hands, and say all the right words. But if you are still lying to yourself in private, nothing is moving. Brutal honesty is not about humiliation. It is about liberation. The truth does not come to shame you. It comes to set you free. Some of you are asking God to fix what you refuse to face. You keep saying, that's just how I am, when the truth is, that's how you've been choosing to stay. You blame your upbringing, your trauma, your enemies, and your circumstances, but deep down you know there are patterns you keep repeating because they feel familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. So you make excuses for habits that are slowly draining your strength, your joy, and your purpose. And the danger is not the mistake itself. The danger is defending it. There comes a moment when you have to stop romanticizing your survival and start confronting your stagnation. Yes, you survived, and yes, you endured. But survival is not the same as transformation. You can survive and still be stuck. You can survive and still be bound. You can survive and still be afraid to change, because honesty would require responsibility. And responsibility is heavy when you've grown comfortable blaming everything else. Brutal honesty sounds like standing in the mirror and saying, I am the common denominator in every cycle I complain about. It sounds like admitting, I keep choosing what hurts me because it feeds my insecurity. It sounds like confessing, I say I want better, but I keep doing what keeps me broken. That kind of truth will shake you, but it will also wake you. Because until you tell the truth, you will keep asking for deliverance from a prison whose door is already open. God cannot heal the version of you that keeps pretending. He heals what you bring into the light. He restores what you stop hiding. And the moment you tell the truth, the power of the lie breaks. The mask falls, the cycle weakens. You stop running from yourself and start rebuilding yourself. Honesty does not make you weak. It makes you dangerous to the thing that once controlled you. So the question is not whether you've been hurt. The question is whether you're ready to stop using your hurt as an excuse to stay the same. Because when you finally tell the truth, no filters, no blame, no denial, you step into the doorway of real change. And that truth, painful as it may be, is the beginning of everything new. Comfort feels good, but it quietly steals your future while you're not paying attention. It wraps itself around you so gently that you don't realize you've stopped growing. Comfort tells you that where you are is good enough, that you've done enough, that you've survived enough pain to deserve rest. But rest without growth turns into stagnation. And stagnation is dangerous because nothing dies all at once. It fades slowly, quietly, while you're busy convincing yourself that everything is fine. Comfort is deceptive because it doesn't come dressed like an enemy. It feels familiar. It feels safe. It feels like protection. But what you call comfort God often calls confinement. You start choosing ease over excellence, convenience over calling, and familiarity over faith. You settle into routines that don't challenge you, relationships that don't sharpen you, and mindsets that don't stretch you. And before you know it, you're living beneath your potential while telling yourself you're just being patient. Growth demands disruption. It demands that something be disturbed, questioned, and sometimes broken. But comfort resists the disruption. Comfort says, don't rock the boat, even when the boat isn't moving. Comfort says, stay where you are, even when the season has shifted. And the tragedy is not that you stayed too long. It's that you convinced yourself that staying was wisdom, when it was really fear wearing a disguise. There are places you've outgrown, but because they still feel good, you haven't let go. There are habits that no longer serve you, but because they soothe your anxiety, you keep returning to them. There are conversations you avoid, changes you delay, and decisions you postpone, not because you don't know what to do, but because doing it would require discomfort. And discomfort exposes what comfort hides: your potential, your courage, and your capacity to become more. Comfort will let you pray but not move. It will let you dream but not act. It will let you talk about change while keeping you chained to the same results. That's why some people stay in the same place for years, not because God stopped blessing, but because comfort convinced them they didn't need to push anymore. And you cannot grow into a new season using old strategies that were built for survival, not expansion. The truth is, everything you're asking God for lives on the other side of what makes you uncomfortable: the discipline you avoid, the conversation you delay, the risk you fear, the routine you resist. Those are the gateways to growth. Comfort feels like peace, but it's not the same. Peace strengthens you. Comfort sedates you. Peace prepares you for what's next. Comfort keeps you stuck where you are. So if you feel restless, unsettled, and stretched, it may not be an attack. It may be an invitation to grow, to move, to rise beyond what once felt safe. Because the moment you choose growth over comfort, you step out of what feels good and into what makes you great. Prayer is powerful, but prayer was never meant to replace responsibility. Too many people are asking God to remove what He already gave them the strength to manage. You keep praying for deliverance from habits that require discipline, and you keep asking for miracles in areas where consistency is the real answer. Prayer will open the door, but discipline is what keeps you from walking back into the same mess you cried about last season. There are things prayer will cover, and there are things discipline must confront. You can pray for peace, but if you keep feeding chaos, peace will never stay. You can pray for financial breakthrough, but if you refuse to manage what you already have, the blessing will leak through undisciplined hands. God is not withholding answers. He is waiting for alignment. Alignment between what you pray and how you live. Discipline is uncomfortable because it exposes what you really want. It reveals whether your desire is genuine or just emotional. Anyone can pray when they're tired of the pain, but discipline shows up when the emotion fades. Discipline wakes you up early when your body wants to sleep. Discipline says no when your flesh wants comfort. Discipline chooses long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. And that is why it changes lives. Many people confuse spiritual passion with spiritual maturity. Passion cries at the altar. Maturity changes behavior after you leave it. Passion feels powerful in the moment. Maturity stays consistent when no one is watching. God is not impressed by tears if they don't lead to transformation. He listens, but He also expects movement. Because prayer without discipline creates spiritual frustration. You keep crying about the same thing year after year, wondering why nothing changes. You don't need God to do what you can do. You need God to empower what you are willing to sustain. When you show discipline, you show stewardship. You show that you are ready to handle what you've been asking for. That's why some blessings don't come, not because God said no, but because discipline said not yet. You are praying for overflow, but discipline is still trying to fix the leaks. Discipline does not mean perfection. It means direction. It means deciding daily that your future matters more than your comfort. It means holding yourself accountable even when no one else does. It means understanding that freedom is maintained, not magically preserved. What God delivers you from, discipline keeps you from returning to. So prayer is not canceled. Prayer is completed by discipline. Prayer invites God into the process. Discipline keeps you faithful to the process. When prayer and discipline walk together, change becomes inevitable. The cycle breaks, the habits shift, the mindset matures, and you stop begging God to change things. You are finally strong enough to change yourself. You can say anything you want, but your life is already speaking on your behalf. Your words may sound spiritual, your prayers may sound sincere, and your intentions may feel pure, but your patterns are telling the real story. Heaven listens closely to what you do, not just to what you say, because behavior is belief in motion. What you repeatedly practice is what you truly trust. You can pray for change while living the same way, but repetition will always overpower intention. God does not respond to promises you make in emotional moments. He responds to the direction of your movement. That's why patterns matter. Patterns reveal what you honor, what you fear, and what you value. They expose whether you are serious about transformation or just frustrated with the consequences of staying the same. Many people are asking God to move while they themselves refuse to move. You keep praying for a breakthrough, but every decision you make reinforces the same blockage. You keep asking for elevation, but your habits are rooted in the same ground that keeps you stuck. You keep declaring victory, but your daily routine is still designed for survival. And the contradiction between your prayers and your patterns is the reason you feel spiritually tired. Patterns don't lie. They tell you where your faith actually lies. If you say you want peace but keep choosing chaos, your pattern has already answered your prayer. If you say you want growth but avoid anything that stretches you, your pattern has already made a decision. If you say you want freedom, but keep returning to the same behaviors, your pattern has revealed your comfort zone. And God will not override your pattern just because you are emotional about it. Emotion moves the heart, but patterns move the future. That's why temporary inspiration fades, but consistent action changes lives. You don't become what you pray for. You become what you practice. What you do every day is far more powerful than what you say once a week. And until your patterns shift, your prayers will keep echoing in the same place. God honors movement. Throughout Scripture, miracles happened when people moved. When they stepped, stretched, walked, obeyed. Not when they just spoke. Movement proves faith. Action activates alignment. And patterns are simply repeated movement in one direction. So if your pattern is brokenness, confusion, or delay, it's not because God is silent. It's because your movement keeps circling the same territory. Changing your pattern does not require a dramatic moment. It requires a consistent choice. The moment you shift what you repeatedly do, you shift what you repeatedly experience. When your habits change, your outcomes change. When your discipline changes, your direction changes. And when your patterns finally line up with your prayers, heaven responds not with frustration, but with favor. So stop asking God to bless words that your life refuses to support. Let your walk agree with your talk. Let your routine reflect your request. Because when your patterns start matching your prayers, change doesn't have to be begged for. It begins to happen naturally. You cannot step into a new season carrying an old identity and expect the future to recognize you. What brought you through survival will not carry you into expansion. The old version of you may have been strong enough to endure pain, adapt to lack, and withstand disappointment, but that version was built for endurance, not for overflow. And if you keep holding on to who you were, you will keep missing what you are becoming. Every new season demands a new self. New levels require new thinking, new discipline, new courage. But the struggle is not that God won't take you forward. The struggle is that you keep trying to bring old habits, old fears, and old coping mechanisms into a place where they no longer belong. You want new doors to open, but you keep showing up with the same mindset that closed the last ones. And seasons don't respond to prayers alone. They respond to preparation. There are behaviors that protected you in your past that will poison you in your future. Being guarded may have kept you from being hurt, but it can also keep you from being loved. Being defensive may have helped you survive criticism, but it can also block correction. Being independent may have saved you when no one showed up, but it can also isolate you when collaboration is required. The old you did what it had to do, but it cannot lead you where you're going. Growth requires shedding. You don't outgrow seasons by carrying everything with you. You outgrow them by releasing what no longer fits. Just like a child cannot stay in the same clothes and still grow, you cannot keep the same mindset and still expand. Something has to be left behind, not because it was bad, but because it is outdated. And refusing to release it doesn't make you loyal. It makes you stuck. The danger is when you fall in love with who you used to be, because that version has a testimony. You survived, you endured, you overcame, and that story is powerful. But survival is not the destination. You don't live in the wilderness forever just because you learned how to survive there. There comes a time when God says, you've outgrown this place, and if you don't evolve, you will wander in circles while calling it faith. The old you cannot manage the weight of the new season. New levels come with new responsibility, new visibility, and new pressure. And if you don't mature internally, what God gives externally will overwhelm you. That's why change isn't punishment, it's preparation. God is not trying to take something from you. He's trying to build someone within you who can handle what's coming. So when you feel tension between who you've been and who you're becoming, that discomfort is not confusion. It's confirmation. It means growth is happening. It means the old version is being challenged. And the moment you stop clinging to who you were, you make room for who you must become, because the next season is not waiting on your prayer. It's waiting on your transformation. Change is not a feeling. It is a decision. Too many people wait to feel ready, to feel inspired, or to feel courageous. And while they wait, life passes them by. You keep telling yourself, I'll start when I feel it. But the truth is, feelings are unreliable. They come and go like the wind. And if you wait for the perfect feeling, you will spend a lifetime standing still. Change does not arrive wrapped in comfort or wrapped in emotion. Change arrives when you decide it will, and you move whether you feel ready or not. Waiting for the right moment is the enemy of progress. You convince yourself that timing has to be perfect, that conditions must align, or that you need more energy, more confidence, more clarity. But the perfect moment is a myth. Life is messy. Opportunities don't wait. Circumstances are rarely ideal. The only thing you control is the decision to act, to step, to do what needs to be done despite uncertainty. And every small decision you make toward change builds momentum, even when it doesn't feel dramatic. Feelings are fleeting, but decisions are powerful. When you choose change, you send a message to yourself, to the universe, and to God that you refuse to remain in the same place. You say, I will not let fear dictate my life. I will not let comfort hold me hostage. I will not let my past define my future. Decisions carry weight. They set patterns. They trigger action. And while emotions may lag, your decision will push you forward into growth, even when the feeling of confidence has not yet arrived. Many people sabotage themselves because they confuse hesitation with wisdom. Hesitation is often fear disguised as prudence. Waiting to feel ready is a way of avoiding responsibility. You may pray for change, cry for deliverance, and dream about a better life. But until you make the conscious choice to act, nothing shifts. Change begins not when conditions are right, but when you take ownership of your life and decide that the status quo is no longer acceptable. Decision demands courage because it is intentional. It requires acknowledging that the road will be uncomfortable, that you will stumble, and that growth is not instantaneous. It is the willingness to move even when the outcome is uncertain. That is the difference between those who remain in the same cycle and those who rise above it. Decisions create patterns. Decisions form habits. Decisions ultimately define destiny. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for confidence to knock on your door. Stop letting fear masquerade as preparation. The moment you decide fully, intentionally, and without conditions. That change is non-negotiable. The process begins. Action follows decision, and transformation begins its work. You will grow into your new life, not because you were inspired, but because you were committed. The decision to change is the first step, and once it is made, the rest will catch up. And I'm going to say this to you one last time. The only thing standing between you and the life you keep praying for is you. Stop blaming the past. Stop fearing the unknown. Stop waiting for the perfect feeling. Today is your day, is the moment. God has already opened the door, but you've got to walk through it. You've got to decide, move, and refuse to be the same. When are you going to finally change? The time is now. Step up, step out, and watch God meet the courage you finally show.